The stars were dying. Not the stars themselves, but everything around them. Planets that once held billions of lives were now nothing but empty rocks floating in the cold darkness of space. High Counselor Verath stood before the great window of the council chamber on Volanthi Prime. His pale blue skin shifted colors as emotions moved through him. Fear, grief, desperation. Behind him, the other council members sat in silence. Nobody spoke because there was nothing left to say. The Kreth had come. Nobody knew where the Kreth came from. They simply appeared one day at the edge of Volanthi space. At first, they seemed like simple creatures. They had no ships, no technology, no intelligence that anyone could measure. They were just floating masses of black flesh that drifted through space like clouds of death. But the Kreth were hungry, and they ate everything. The first world to fall was Marath 6. It was a small colony world with only 2 million people. The Volanthi fleet arrived to find the Kreth covering the planet like a living blanket. They fired their weapons. Energy beams cut through the Kreth bodies easily. The military commanders celebrated. Then the Kreth changed. Within hours, the energy weapons stopped working. The Kreth had adapted. Their bodies now absorbed the energy and used it to grow stronger. The fleet tried missiles. The Kreth adapted again. They tried everything in their arsenal, and the Kreth adapted to everything. Marath 6 was consumed in 3 days. Every plant, every animal, every person. The Kreth ate it all, and then moved on to the next world. That was 2 cycles ago. Now 12 systems were gone. 40 billion lives lost. The great Volanthi collective, which had stood for 10,000 years, was falling apart. Verath turned away from the window and faced his fellow counselors. There were representatives from all 7 species of the collective. The tall, thin Oreni, the small, quick Tessari, the ancient, wise Corum. All of them looked to Verath with hope in their eyes. Hope that he knew was about to be crushed. "Our fleets are broken," Verath said. His voice was calm, but inside he was screaming. "We have nothing left that can stop them. In 20 cycles, maybe less, the Kreth will reach Volanthi Prime. When they do, the collective will end." Silence filled the chamber. One of the Tessari began to cry softly. The Corum elder closed all 4 of his eyes and began to pray to gods that had never answered. "There must be something," said Admiral Keth, commander of what remained of the fleet. "Some weapon we haven't tried. Some strategy we haven't considered." Verath hesitated. There was one thing. One desperate, foolish thing that nobody had spoken of in thousands of years. "There is the beacon," he said quietly. The chamber erupted. Everyone spoke at once. The beacon was legend. The beacon was myth. The beacon was forbidden. "The precursors built it," Verath continued, raising his hands for silence. "Before they vanished, they left us one gift. A device that can send a message across the barriers between dimensions. A call for help that can reach beyond our universe." "You want to summon unknown beings into our galaxy?" Admiral Keth demanded. "We have no idea what might answer. We know exactly what will happen if nothing answers," Verath replied. "We will all die. Every last one of us. Is that better?" The debate lasted for hours, but in the end, fear won. Fear of the Kreth was greater than fear of the unknown. The council voted, and the decision was made. The beacon was activated, deep beneath the surface of Volanthi Prime, in a chamber that had not been opened in 8,000 years. Ancient machines hummed to life. Energy built and built until it could not be contained. Then it was released in a single pulse that tore through the fabric of reality itself. The message was simple. "We are dying. Please help us. Anyone." On a small blue planet in a distant dimension, the message arrived. Earth had changed much in the 100 years since humans first detected alien signals in the cosmos. They had found artifacts. They had learned secrets. They had built things that would have seemed like magic to their ancestors. The message came to a facility in the mountains. Men and women in uniforms looked at their screens with wide eyes. They ran tests. They confirmed the signal was real. Then they made phone calls to people who made decisions. 3 days later, the UNSC Fury of Terra and her battle group tore through the dimensional barrier and entered Volanthi space. Verath was there when the human ships appeared. They were strange vessels, all hard angles and dark metal. They did not look like the graceful ships of the collective. They looked like weapons given form. A transmission came through. A human face appeared on the screen. It was a female with dark hair and cold eyes. Admiral Chen Wei. She called herself. We received your message, she said. We are here to help. Verath felt tears forming in his eyes. Relief flooded through him. They were saved. Help had come. Thank you, he whispered. Thank you. Admiral Chen smiled. It was not a warm smile. Show us the enemy, she said. We will handle the rest. Verath would remember that smile later. He would remember it when he understood what humanity truly was. But for now, he felt only hope. Salvation had arrived. He did not yet know the price. The humans were strange creatures. Ambassador Tellus had been chosen to work with them because she was good at understanding other species. She had spent her whole life studying the different peoples of the collective. She thought she understood how intelligent beings worked. The humans taught her that she knew nothing. They were soft creatures, covered in thin skin with no natural armor or weapons. They could not change colors to show their feelings like the Volanthi. They could not see in the dark like the Tessari. They could not live for 1,000 years like the Corum. By every measure, they should have been weak. But when Tellus looked into their eyes, she saw something that made her afraid. She saw the eyes of hunters. Admiral Chen Wei held a meeting on her ship, the Fury of Terra. The main council chamber was filled with Volanthi military leaders and human officers. A great holographic display showed the galaxy and the spread of the Krith. Tell me about the enemy, Admiral Chen said. Admiral Keth stepped forward. He showed them everything. The Krith attacks, the failed defenses, the adaptation process that made them immune to weapons. They adapt to everything, Keth explained, his voice heavy with defeat. Energy weapons work once, maybe twice. Then they change. Kinetic weapons are the same. We tried biological attacks, chemical attacks. Nothing works for long. The human officers listened quietly. They did not look afraid. They did not look worried. They looked interested, like scientists studying an experiment. How fast do they adapt? One of them asked. Hours. Sometimes less. And after they adapt to a weapon, are they immune forever? Yes, we believe so. Admiral Chen nodded slowly. She turned to her officers. Fire, she said. Do they adapt to fire? The Volanthi looked confused. Fire? Fire was primitive. Fire was what species used before they learned to build proper technology. We have not tried fire, Admiral Keth admitted. It seemed too simple. Admiral Chen smiled that strange, cold smile again. Simple works. The human fleet moved to the Yenroth system, where a massive Krith swarm was eating the fourth planet. The Volanthi sent observer ships to watch. They expected to see another defeat. What they saw changed everything. The human ships did not use elegant energy weapons. They used something called plasma incendiaries. Tellus did not understand the science, but she understood the result. The weapons created fire so hot that it approached the temperature of stars. When it touched the Krith, they did not adapt. They simply burned. But that was only the beginning. The humans released clouds of tiny machines called nanites. These machines were programmed to find Krith flesh and tear it apart molecule by molecule. They spread through the swarm like a disease, destroying everything they touched. When some Krith tried to flee toward the planet's surface, the humans used kinetic bombardment. They dropped metal rods from orbit. The rods fell so fast that when they hit the ground, they exploded with the force of nuclear weapons. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it was over, the Krith swarm was gone. Every single creature had been killed. But the fourth planet of Yenrath was destroyed too. Its surface had been melted into glass and fire. Mountains had been flattened. Oceans had been boiled away. Nothing lived there anymore. Tellus watched from the observation deck of the human flagship. Her skin had turned white, the color of shock and horror. The planet, she whispered. There were people on that planet, evacuated 3 days ago. A human officer said casually. We made sure. But the planet itself, it will take thousands of years to recover. The officer shrugged. Planets can be replaced, people cannot. Admiral Chen approached Tellus. The human leader looked pleased. The operation was successful, she said. The Kreth in this system have been eliminated. Eliminated, Tellus repeated. The word felt strange in her mouth. You destroyed an entire world to eliminate them. We destroyed a world to save a species, Chen corrected. Yours. Is that not why you called us? Tellus could not argue with that logic, but something bothered her. Something about the way the humans fought. They did not fight like the Volanthi. who tried to minimize damage. They did not fight like the Oreni, who valued honor and fair combat. The humans fought like they were trying to end not just a battle, but an entire enemy. "Admiral," Tellus said carefully, "these weapons you used, did you develop them to fight the Kreth?" Chen looked at her with those cold hunter's eyes. "No," she said simply. "We already had them." "Then what were they made for?" Chen did not answer for a long moment. When she did, her voice was quiet. "Each other." Tellus felt ice spread through her body. She suddenly understood something terrible. Humans had not learned war from the stars. They had brought war with them. They had spent their entire history fighting themselves, building better and better ways to destroy. The Kreth were nothing new to them. The Kreth were just another enemy to break. As the human fleet prepared to move to the next system, Tellus sent a secret message to High Counselor Verath. Her hands trembled as she typed. "They will save us," she wrote, "but I am beginning to wonder if we will survive being saved." The last Kreth queen died screaming. She had been the oldest of her kind, hidden in a dead system at the very edge of the galaxy. Her children had protected her for 10,000 years. They had fed her planets and stars. They had built her a fortress of living flesh that stretched across moons. The humans found her anyway. When the fury of Terra's guns fell silent, there was nothing left. Not the queen, not her children, not even the moons she had called home. Just dust and radiation floating in empty space. Admiral Chen watched the destruction from her command chair. Her face showed no emotion. This was the 17th queen she had killed. It had become routine. "Scan for survivors," she ordered. "None detected." "Admiral, the Kreth presence in this system has been eliminated." Chen nodded. "Then it's over. The Kreth are extinct." The word hung in the air. Extinct. A species that had existed for millions of years, gone in 18 months. The Valanthi had fought them for 2 years and lost 12 systems. The humans had erased them from existence in less time than it took to grow crops. On Valanthi Prime, the news arrived like sunrise after an endless night. People poured into the streets. They danced. They cried. They held each other and spoke names of loved ones lost to the Kreth. High Counselor Verath declared a day of celebration. For one perfect moment, the galaxy was at peace. The moment did not last. 1 week after the final victory, the humans called a meeting. Ambassadors from all 7 species of the collective gathered in the Great Council chamber. They expected speeches, congratulations, perhaps a farewell ceremony before the humans returned to their own dimension. Instead, they received a list of demands. "Compensation," the human ambassador explained. She was a small woman named Sarah Cross, but her voice filled the room like thunder. "We have spent considerable resources defending your collective. Ships, weapons, lives. We expect fair payment." Verath felt something cold settle in his stomach. "Payment? We offered you our gratitude, our friendship. We assumed. You assumed we came out of kindness." Cross smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "We came because you asked. But nothing is free, Counselor. Nothing in any universe." The list was long. Mining rights to certain systems, exclusive trade agreements, permission to establish defensive installations throughout collective space, technology sharing, resource shipments. The council debated for days. Some wanted to refuse. Some wanted to negotiate. Some simply wanted the humans to leave. But how do you say no to the people who just saved your civilization? How do you argue with the species that killed a godlike enemy you could not scratch? In the end, they agreed. They had no choice. The first human bases were small. Research stations, they were called. Listening posts, places where humans could monitor for future threats. The collective accepted them because they seemed harmless. Then the bases grew. More ships arrived. Human merchants appeared on trading stations. Human soldiers walked the streets of alien cities. Always polite, always smiling, always watching. 6 months later, the Oreni syndicate made a mistake. The Oreni were proud people. They had been warriors before they joined the collective. They did not like the way humans looked at them. They did not like human ships in their space. They certainly did not like human demands. When a human cargo ship entered Oreni territory without proper permission, an Oreni warship fired a warning shot. Just a small blast across the bow. A message, a reminder that the Oreni were still masters of their own space. The human ship was not damaged. Nobody was hurt. In Oreni culture, it was barely an insult. The human response came 48 hours later. 3 human battleships appeared in orbit around the Oreni homeworld. They did not fire at cities. They did not bomb the surface. They simply targeted the 3 moons of Oreni Prime and opened fire. Each moon held military installations, shipyards, training facilities, the heart of Oreni military power. In 4 hours, the moons were dust. 12 million Oreni were evacuated in time. Another 3 million were not. Their deaths were called unfortunate but necessary in the official human statement. Ambassador Cross addressed the emergency council meeting personally. Her voice was calm, professional, like she was discussing weather. The Oreni fired on a human vessel, she explained. This was an act of war. We have responded proportionally. Proportionally? Vareth could not keep his voice from shaking. You killed 3 million people, over 1 ship, 1 shot that hurt nobody. The shot was irrelevant. The intent was clear. Cross folded her hands on the table. The Oreni challenged human authority. They needed to understand that this is not acceptable. Now they understand. You destroyed their military, their ability to defend themselves. They will rebuild. In time. And when they do, they will remember this day. They will remember what happens when someone threatens humanity. Cross paused. We are not without mercy, counselor. The Oreni people survive. Their world survives. They have learned their lesson at a reasonable cost. Varath looked around the council chamber. He saw fear in every face. The Tessari representative was trembling. The Quorum elder had closed his eyes and would not open them. Even Admiral Keth, who had seen so much death, looked pale. This was the price of salvation. This was what they had invited into their galaxy. Not saviors. Not protectors. Owners. What do you want from us? Vareth asked quietly. Tell me plainly. What do humans want? Cross smiled. For just a moment, Vareth saw something behind her professional mask. Something hungry. Something patient. We want peace, she said. Stability. Security. We want to make sure that nothing ever threatens this region of space again. She spread her hands. We want to help. Varath understood. The humans would never leave. They would never stop helping. And anyone who tried to make them leave would end up like the Oreni, or like the Kreeth. The collective had called for salvation. Salvation had answered, and now the bill had come due. 5 years had passed since the beacon was activated. 5 years since the humans arrived. 5 years since everything changed. High Counselor Varath walked through the gardens of his estate on Valanthi Prime. He was old now. His skin, once bright with colors, had faded to soft grays and blues. His movements were slow. His eyes were tired. But he remembered everything. A young human journalist walked beside him. Her name was Emma Chen, niece of the famous admiral. She had come to record history, to document the great partnership between humanity and the collective. Tell me about the early days, Emma said, her recording device floating beside her. What was it like when you first contacted Earth? Vareth was silent for a long moment. Where to begin? How to explain what had been lost? We were dying, he finally said. The Kreeth were eating our worlds. We had tried everything. Nothing worked. So we activated the beacon, an ancient device that could call for help across dimensions. And humanity answered. Yes, you answered. Vareth stopped walking. He looked up at the sky, where a massive human battleship hung in orbit. It had been there for 3 years. It would always be there. You saved us. The Kreeth were terrible enemies, Emma agreed, but humanity defeated them. The collective is safe now. Safe. Vareth tasted the word like something bitter. Yes, we are very safe. The collective still existed. The council still met. Representatives from all 7 species still gathered to discuss policy and trade. But everyone knew the truth. No decision was made without human approval. No law was passed that humans did not like. No ship flew without human permission. It was not conquest. The humans were very careful about that. They called it partnership. They called it protection. They called it guidance during a difficult transition. But the result was the same. The Oreni had rebuilt some of their military. Not all of it. The humans set limits on how many ships each species could have. For stability, they explained. Too many weapons lead to conflict. The Tessari had lost control of their trade routes. Human merchants now dominated the profitable lanes. The Tessari could still trade, of course. They just could not compete. The Quorum, oldest and wisest of the collective species, had stopped speaking in council meetings. They sat in silence, watching everything with ancient eyes that had seen empires rise and fall. They knew what was happening. They simply could not stop it. And the Valanthi? Vareth's own people? They survived. They prospered. In a way, human technology had improved their lives. Human medicine had cured diseases that had plagued them for centuries. Human security had made their world safer than ever before, but they were no longer free. "Do you regret it?" Emma asked. Her voice was soft, almost gentle. Activating the beacon, calling for help. Vareth looked at her. She was young. She had not been born when her people arrived in this galaxy. She did not remember the fear, the desperation, the absolute certainty that extinction was coming. "We were being eaten by monsters," he said slowly. "Every day, more of our people died. Children, families, entire worlds. We had no choice, so you don't regret it." "I did not say that." Vareth resumed walking. His old bones ached, but he preferred to stand while speaking truth. "We called for help. Help came. We simply did not understand what help would cost. The collective is prosperous," Emma pointed out. "Trade is flourishing. Crime has almost disappeared. There hasn't been a war in 4 years. There has not been a war because everyone is afraid," Vareth corrected. "There is no crime because your soldiers watch everything. And yes, trade flourishes, but for whose benefit?" He stopped and faced her directly. His skin shifted to the deep purple of honesty. "Your people did not conquer us. You never needed to. You simply became essential. You made yourselves the foundation of everything. And now, if you left, our civilization would collapse. We cannot survive without you anymore." He paused. "That is not partnership. That is ownership with extra steps." Emma was silent. Her recording device continued to float beside her, capturing everything. "My aunt," she said finally. "Admiral Chen. She told me once that humanity never planned to rule anyone. She said humans just wanted to help." "I believe that," Vareth said. "I believe your people truly wanted to help. But there is something in humanity that cannot stop. Something that must always grow, always expand, always control." He shook his head. "You see a problem, and you fix it. Then you fix the next problem, and the next. And before anyone realizes, you have fixed everything, and nothing can work without you." They walked in silence for a while. The gardens were beautiful. Valanthi flowers bloomed in 1,000 colors. Birds sang songs that had been sung for millions of years. In orbit, the human battleship continued its eternal patrol. "What would you tell other species?" Emma asked. "If they were considering calling humanity for help, what would you say?" 1. Vareth thought about this for a long time. He thought about the Kreth, about the fear, about the moment when human ships first appeared, and he had wept with relief. He thought about everything that came after. "I would tell them to think carefully," he finally said. "I would tell them that humans are not evil. You are not cruel for the sake of cruelty. You genuinely want to help, in your own way." He looked up at the battleship one more time. "But I would also tell them this. Humanity helps. That is what you do. That is who you are. You see suffering and you cannot ignore it. You see threats, and you must eliminate them. You see weakness and you must protect it." His voice dropped to a whisper. "And once humanity starts helping, you never stop. You never leave. You become the solution to every problem, until you are the only solution left." He turned away from the sky. "We called for help against the monsters. Help answered. The monsters are gone." His skin flickered with dark humor, the last refuge of the old. "But now, we know the truth that children learn in every galaxy, in every dimension, in every corner of existence." "What truth?" Vareth looked at the young human with ancient eyes. "There are different kinds of monsters. Some devour worlds. Some save them." He smiled sadly. "The ones who save you are always more dangerous, because they never see themselves as monsters at all." Above them, the battleship turned slowly, its weapons cold and ready. Humanity stood watch over its grateful, protected, helpless friends, and the stars burned on, indifferent to the small creatures who lived and died beneath them.